Mr. Michael Arterberry is the Executive Director of the Youth Voices Center, a nonprofit organization that has gained recognition across the tri-state region. Mr. Arterberry graduated from Iona College in New Rochelle, New York with a degree in social work and began his career as a caseworker monitoring the care of children with foster families. He later became an independent living specialist who provided counseling and training for children. Mr. Arterberry moved on to work in Westchester County School System as a counselor for at-risk youth. After being dissatisfied with the intervention services provided to him, he started developing his own curriculum. 7 years ago, he unveiled the Power of Peace program at New Rochelle High School, and 7 years later, he is making plans to bring the program to school districts throughout the country, including a school district in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. This program aims to teach young people, especially those raised in poverty or dysfunctional families, to better understand how their actions impact not only their lives, but the lives of others. The Power of Peace has given students the ability to self-reflect and learn about themselves, while all along building trust and community amongst the group. This year, Hudson High School is fortunate enough to have had 150 students participate in the 2-day interactive workshop, and next year we will have another 150 students go through the training as well. It is because of the positive impact that he has had on our school community that I have selected Mr. Michael Arterberry as our 2014 commencement address speaker.
I want to take a moment to soak this in. I want to take your time, but I really want to just really soak this in. I'm very honored by the Hudson School District to be asked to do this. And as I prepared my speech, I thought about the great responsibility that I have to the young people here at Hudson. I will be one of the last voices that you hear before you step into that next chapter of your life. So, I take this very seriously. But I want to start my speech off with a fable that I usually talk about and I use in the workshops that I give here at Hudson. And it's about a donkey, all right? It's about a donkey. And this donkey belonged to a farmer. And his donkey was the farmer's favorite donkey. And he loved the donkey so much that the donkey was like a family member. The donkey was the one that played with his kids. He did all the work in the fields. He really loved this donkey. And one day this donkey wandered off into a well, and he fell into the well. So then the farmer went over to the well and he discovered that his donkey was at the bottom of the well. So he wanted to get him out. So he went and got 6 of his friends, and they came over to the well, and they had some rope. So they took the rope and they lowered the rope into the well. And when they first lowered the rope went around the donkey's neck. And the farmer didn't want to pull on the rope because the rope would choke the donkey. So he pulled the rope back up, and he threw it down a second time. And the second time he threw the rope down, the rope went around his hind parts. And at that point, the 6 of his friends started to pull on the rope. And as they pulled on the rope, they realized that the donkey was too heavy. So at this point, the farmer looked at his buddies and he said, "You know what? I don't want my donkey to starve and suffer at the bottom of the well. So what we're going to do is we're going to bury him." So they all went and they got shovels. And they started to shovel dirt into the well. And each time that they would shovel dirt into the well, you could hear the donkey scream. And every time the donkey screamed, the farmer was distressed because that donkey was like a family member. But he knew he had to do what he had to do. So he continued to shovel the dirt. And then soon, the scream stopped. And the farmer felt that he had put enough dirt into the well to bury the donkey. But he looked at his friends and he says, let's put a few more scoops in to make sure that he's really gone. So they start shoveling a little bit more, and then all of a sudden, you see the donkey's ears. So they keep shoveling really fast, and the next thing you know, you see the donkey's midpoint. They keep shoveling, and the next thing you know, that donkey walked right out of the well that he fell into. Now I'm going to explain to you exactly what happened with the donkey. Every time that they shoveled dirt into that well, and the dirt fell on the back of the donkey would shake it off, and he would step on it. And he used the dirt that was meant to kill him to save himself from the well. Now I share this with you young people because there's one thing that I can guarantee you in your life is that you're going to have dirt. And as you go through life, you have to understand that you have to shake it off and you have to step on it. It's too bad you can't see the picture that's hanging there because that picture is a picture of the house that I grew up in, okay? Now, wait, what's that? Well, yeah, let him get a peek. Can you see it? All right, now you can turn it back around. Thank you. But anyway, that's the house that I grew up in. So what I want to do is I want to share some of my memories of that house, okay? If you look at it, you would think that I went back and took a picture after it was condemned. But I'm going to keep it real with you. If you put windows in the top 3 windows and the bottom 2, and you keep the boards on the bottom window, it is exactly the same way it was when I lived in it. All right, so here we go. I want to share some of my memories. First and foremost, you look at that house, I was extremely embarrassed about where I lived. And I was so embarrassed about where I lived that I used to lie to people about where I lived. So check it out. What I did is I had a house on my block that had a split level porch. And what you could do is you could walk up on the porch and you could duck down so the people outside couldn't see you. So what I would do is I would go to that house and I would walk up on the porch and I would duck down and I would look and wait for you to get down the block. And then when you get down the street, I would walk off that porch and I would go to my house. And I did that for 6 years. So imagine, for 6 years, my friends, at least the ones that didn't live very close to me, had no idea where I lived. I got another memory that I want to share with you in that house. In the wintertime, there were times where we didn't have heat. So what my mother used to do for us to have heat is she used to take these big turkey pans and she would put water into the turkey pans and she would boil the water. Now boiling the water would create vapors and these vapors would create heat. And so we would hang out in the kitchen and that's where we would get heat. But when it was time to go to bed, you had to knuckle down, put on a few sweatshirts, and you would have to do what you had to do. Now you think it would be bad enough not to just have heat, but we had this nice duplex. If the guy decided to put some money into it, it'd been a really nice house. But we didn't have a shower, all we had was a tub. So if I wanted to get dressed and ready to go to school, I had to boil water, pour that water into the bathtub, wait for that water to cool off, and then I would have to get into the bathtub and get ready for school. And this is what I did regularly. And last but not least, you know, my mother's sitting in the audience, so I don't want to embarrass her, but, you know, let me say something before I proceed. You know, she can make a dollar stretch. You know, so for me saying this, it's not about my mother not being able to provide for me. She provided for me quite well. But we didn't do any exotic vacations, you know. What she would do is she would save up her money, and at the end of every year, we would go to Alabama, and that's where my family is. And we would go down there and we would vacation, you know. And that's just a little bit about my life. But you want to know something? That's my dirt. All right, that's my dirt. You know, what I chose to do is I chose to take my dirt and I shook it off and I stepped on it. And by stepping on that dirt, what I proved to many is that you can live in an environment, but you don't have to become that environment. I'm a living proof of that. You see that house right there? Now, see, I usually show a picture of my second house where I live now, but you know, you start blowing up pictures like that, it costs a lot of money. So, you know, I had to just blow one up. I'll let you just vision the other one. It's nice, you know what I'm saying? But I don't have it with me, you know? If you want to friend me on Facebook, you can check it out, you know, it's right on there. But anyway, you know, I took my dirt, and that dirt turned into passion. And that passion that it turned into allowed me to create a program that speaks to young people. You know, what I want you to know that is the reason why my program, well, let me back up a little bit. The real reason why my program is so good is because I'm a man of faith. And it's God working through me. I hope I can still work here after saying that, I'm just saying. But anyway, but the young, hurting child that lived in that house is the one that speaks to your kids that come through my workshop. And that's why I'm able to speak right into their souls, because I remember what it was to live in that house. But what I want to talk to you guys about today, and it was mentioned earlier in one of the speeches, and it's passion. Passionate people can walk into an empty room and see it filled. Passionate people can turn a nothing job into something very exciting. Passionate people can take a blank sheet of paper and make it into a work of art. So what I want to say to you young people that are graduating is that when you move on to the next phase of your life, don't chase the dollar bill. See, that's what happens, is you think that the money is what's going to make you happy. But it's not about how much money you make. It's about waking up in the morning and enjoying where you're going to go to work. You have a lot of people that got big cars, nice homes, but they're miserable. They're miserable. So when you start to set your path and you start to set your course, I want you to make sure that you find something that you are passionate about. Not how much money you can make, but the fact that you love what you do. Second to passion, thank you. Second to passion, what I want to talk to you about is how do you want to be remembered? Think about that question. How do you want to be remembered? So I want to share a few things with you. I was always a big person, all right? If you can see behind us, I'm a big guy. You know, that's why I'm sweating like this up here, but anyway. But I was always a big person, you know what I'm saying? And because I was a big person, you know, in elementary school, I could have either been the bully or I could have been the one to protect the ones being bullied. So I chose to be the one to protect the bullies, and that's what I did. So if you messed with somebody in school, you better believe you had to talk to me. And what I did not only is on a physical level, you know, I was a little younger then, but even with sports, I would put the young people on my team that wasn't as athletic as I was, and I would protect them, and I would make sure that everybody was okay. You know, and I did this right up until the time that I graduated high school. And then I went to my 25-year high school reunion, and my class president pulled me to the side, and she said to me, and I mean, this really warms my heart when I tell you, she said to me that there were people that came to the reunion just because they called and heard that I was coming. Now they came to the reunion because they wanted to come and personally thank me for all of the times that I stuck up for them and I put them on my team. And when she told me that, you know, I was really honored. You know, and I remember going home and telling my wife about it, and I was really excited about it, and it was the first time that I got a glimpse of what it means to what you want to be remembered by. But I make it a little bit better. This same woman that was my class president, she friends me on Facebook. Now, if you do friend me to see my house, you'll see on my wall, you know what I'm saying, is I write inspirational comments and things for people to inspire them, you know, and I take a lot of time in doing it, and I take it very seriously. So she was reading some of my quotes, and she started to follow me. And then after that, I had the opportunity to do some business with her. She works for an organization called Fuse. They take over failing schools, and they turn these failing schools into successful schools. So she wanted to bring me in to do the Power Peace program. So she invites me to a business meeting. And when I get to the business meeting, think about it. You had a table, you got all these guys in suits. I mean, it was all business-like. And when she started to introduce me, she started to cry. She was unable to finish introducing me because it overwhelmed her from the things that I did for her when she was in elementary school, the things that I did for her when she was in high school, and the things that I was able to write to her on Facebook. So I asked her the question, after sharing those tidbits with you, how do you want to be remembered? You know, I want to finish with this. I saw a documentary, all right? It was about a basketball player. His last name was Cook. I can't remember his first name for anything. I tried to find it with Google, it didn't work. But this is the story. They started following him when he was in high school. And he was real good. I'm talking about he came out during the time when LeBron and Carmelo Anthony and all those guys were in high school. He was out when they came out. You know, when they showed video on him, and I'm talking about they showed him taking Carmelo and all those guys to the hoop. He was good. He was real good. You know, and what happened is a lady took him and moved him out to New Jersey and put him in a beautiful house with a pool, brought 6 of his friends and said that they could live with him. I mean, this guy had it. She gave him, or didn't give him, but she would fly him on a private jet to his AAU basketball games across the country. Now, come on, he had it good. He had it real good. And what happened was, the agent approached him, and the agent offered him $350,000 to sign with him. But if he signed a contract, he would be unable to play in his senior year of high school. Now, this was during the time with Kobe Bryant and those guys where they went right off from high school to the pros. So he thought he had it set. So he signed the contract, he sits and he waits for the draft, and guess what? He didn't get drafted. And this bothered him out. He went over to Europe, he played for a few years, and he disappeared. And the guy doing the documentary went and found him. And he was down south, fat and out of shape, drinking, doing drugs. And he talked to him about all the things that he did and the things that he would change. And what broke my heart is how they finished the documentary. And what they did is they took this fat, out of shape guy, they split the screen, and they allowed the fat, out of shape guy to talk to the teenager that was playing on that hoop squad that was good. And as he spoke to his younger person, I cried like a baby. Because you know what? Everything that he said to this person, which was him, was nothing but regret. And what I want to say to you in closing is that when you look back over your life, and when you start to break down the pieces, what I don't want any of you to have is regret. Make sure that you did everything that you had to do. Make sure that you dot every I and you cross every T. And make sure that you do it 100%. So I want to congratulate you on graduating and moving on to the next phase of your life. And I thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak to you, and hopefully I gave you something that you can use to move on with your lives. Thank you very much.